Hello, fellow Bereans. Thank you for joining me here at Berean Bible Journeys, where we use the context and the original languages to verse map the word. I have got an amazing study for you today. I hope you'll dig into it with me. It is going to be about the image of God versus the image of the beast. So I want to share my screen with you and show you all of this amazing stuff that I've been digging into. So the image of God versus the image of the beast. And we're going to verse map just a small section of Genesis 1:26. And you've heard that verse. And we want to talk about the fact that God created humans in his image, in his form, and he gave us our DNA. And God said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. We're going to go into that verse. And we want to talk about the fact that Satan wants to make an image of his own. He can't create, and he has to take what God has already created and pollute and pervert and twist it. And we're going to tie that into that verse in Revelation that says, he deceiveth them all that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast. And there's another video I have totally about that verse if you want to go find that one. We're going to concentrate first on Genesis 1:26a, and God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness. All right, and this is the verse broken down into the Hebrew. You can do this through Bible Hub. Some of my other videos will show you how to do that. So it says here, and God, Elohim, the supreme God, said, let make a saw, which means work or produce. And he said, let's make man. That word is Adam. The word is Adam, and it means mankind, ruddy, having a healthy reddish color, used as a euphemism for bloody. And it comes from the word Adam, which means to be red or dyed red, ruddy, or to show blood in your face. So keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this. In our image was one of the things that God said he wanted to do. An image is a likeness, something cut out, a representative figure from an unused root, meaning to shade or a phantom. Think of like a silhouette shaded. And then after our likeness is the word demuth. It means likeness, similitude, or fashion. And it comes from dema, which means resemblance, concretely a model, a shape, or a pattern. All right, so we're going to take the three main words out of this verse. All right, we've got man. God said we're going to make man. And that word, remember, it means ruddy, a reddish color, a dyed red. You've seen people that you've heard that word ruddy. So all of these words about man are speaking of his blood. And we're going to talk about the life being in our blood. All right, the second word we're going to talk about is image. So that word is teslim, I guess how you say that, an image, a likeness, something cut out. So think of this when you see that word, like shading, like a cutout, like a silhouette. So he created this silhouette or a shade of himself when he created man. And he created man in his likeness, similitude or fashion. So think of, why do you look like your parents? This is a likeness of this girl that is drawn here. Who is this? Gwyneth Paltrow? That's her mom. If you cut their faces in half and then stick them back together, you can see that they are a copy of each other, right? Why do they look like each other? Why do you look like your parents, right? You get their DNA passed down to you. This is similar to the word for blood, dam. And similitude, we don't hear that word very much in our culture. It means similar nature, parallel, indistinguishable, and uniform. So think of your DNA. That's where you get your similitude from. Similitude is an engineering term sometimes, and a model is said to have similitude with the real application if the two share geometric similarity. Similarity and similitude are interchangeable in this context. So Satan, I submit to you, is causing humans to create an image to him by messing with this similitude. And if you go back to that verse in the verse map, it says that he causes them to make an image to the beast. He doesn't make the image, he's causing them to make an image. That's a big difference. And we are taught in scripture that the life is in the blood, right? If someone bleeds out, they die. Their life is gone. And we're told we don't eat flesh, that with its life that's in it, that is the blood. Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man his blood will be shed, for God made man in his own image. He gave him that blood. For the life of every creature is its blood. Its blood is its life, right? And the word life in Hebrew is nephesh, a soul, living, breathing being whose life resides in the blood. So how is Satan causing an image to be created? Through this blood that is our life. Hey, look at this verse. This is talking about Adam. Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness and after his image, and called his name Seth. Look, there's the exact same phrasing. In his own image, in his own likeness and after his image. So when Adam had a son named Seth, he gave him his image and his likeness. Now, he didn't pass down his actual blood to his son. What did he pass down? He passed down his genes, his genome, his DNA. It wasn't actual blood, it was his DNA that was encoded and created that son's image and likeness that looked like him, just like you and I. This is just plain old biology 101. You have your father and you have your mother, and there are 23 chromosomes from the father and 23 from the mother, and they create your 46 chromosome genome. Genome is a more modern term that scientists like to use. That is your DNA. That's what that means. And they've done a new thing now in science called recombinant DNA, where they actually take a DNA and they cut a little slice out of it and they stick in a new little section in there, and they call that recombinant DNA. If you want to look up how does it work, cloning, amplification, and things like that, that's how they've done that. Now, let's just state this up front. If you look up, is anything going on right now changing your DNA structure? Well, you're going to find hundreds of fact check articles that say absolutely not, in no way, shape, or form is anything altering your genome or your DNA, correct? All right, so hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. My phone was about to die, so I had to plug myself in. Okay, these are statements from one article, which is you can hardly find any articles. The statement that these vaccines will not alter your DNA will find its way into the trash bin labeled things that were absolutely unequivocally certain couldn't happen, which actually happened. All right, in an RNA vaccine, there is no spike protein in the vaccine. Instead, the vaccine provides your cells with instructions on how to build the spike protein. We've heard this and heard this and heard this. It is well known that RNA can be reverse transcribed into DNA. Residing in our cells are enzymes called reverse transcriptases. These endogenous reverse transcriptase enzymes can essentially take single-stranded RNA and convert it into a double-stranded DNA, and this DNA can then be integrated into the DNA in the nucleus through an enzyme termed DNA integrase. Well, I never heard about any of that from any scientist recently, but that is fact. So what determines who you are, and what code creates the image of you? So then we're thinking about how then might Satan cause people to make an image to him? We've got the image of Christ or God in our image and likeness. And then we've got the Antichrist that wants to create an image over here. And that's the ultimate no to God. Do not make an image. Do not do that. All right, Jacob's dream. We've heard so much about this. Jacob dreamed, and a ladder was set up on the earth, and its top reached to heaven, and there were angels of God ascending and descending on it, right? This beautiful picture that's been in your storybook in Sunday school since you were a kid, right? Well, started looking at this, and I started researching, was it a ladder? Angels usually fly, number one, and wouldn't need to climb a ladder. So why were they climbing up and down the ladder? And they would be bumping into each other going up and down the ladder and knocking each other off, right? Of course, they could fly, so that'd be okay. But maybe it was a staircase then, like in that previous picture, maybe it was a wide staircase. Well, angels still do not need a staircase, right? And for that matter, this dream was about his descendants in that land and all over the world. So why this ladder? Well, I discovered that some believe that Jacob dreamed of a spiral staircase. That makes more sense, right? Because then the angels could go up and down, passing each other if they were angels, messengers. And he dreamed of the ultimate spiral, the double-stranded DNA helix. But when you think about Jacob's dream, like he got so overwhelmed by it that he took the rock with him that he was sleeping on and was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm taking this rock because I had this dream here. Because he dreamed about a ladder? It doesn't make any sense, but it does make sense when you think of the fact that he dreamed about his descendants. In his dream, it was said, your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east and the north and south, and all the families of the earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. And then likewise, when Jacob was near death, he passed his blessing on, and he told Joseph that Manasseh would be a great people and that Ephraim would become a multitude of nations. So Jacob was dreaming about his descendants and how they would come and be descendants of his DNA. Is that the right way to say that? Right? So I'd never thought about that before. I thought that was so cool. So if you look at Jacob's descendants, here they are right here. Oops, let me go back one. Jacob's descendants over here, and that's where we get the lineage of Christ and the 12 tribes, right? I'm sorry, I keep saying right. And then over here we have Esau and his descendants who became all the ites, right? And a lot of them were polluted with altered DNA from the fallen angels, the Nephilim. And they were polluted by intermarrying with these other people that were hybrids. If that sounds like crazy talk to you and you've never heard of that, because I hadn't, then go check out these two videos of mine called Them That Dwell Upon the Earth, where it's talking about Satan's past attempts at corrupting the seed of God. There are two of those. Go check those out. So from Jacob's dream, later on, we find out in the Bible that there were two spiral staircases depicted as part of Solomon's temple, which would suggest that spiral stairs were being used some 3,000 years ago. And the stairs in this temple are said to have been used to access a sacrificial altar. This Old Testament prophecy or references in 2 Kings 6 and 8. So there was a spiral staircase that went up the center of the temple. Now, where would they get an idea like that? There's also Temple A in Sicily around 400 BC that has spiral staircase. And the oldest spiral staircase that is still standing can be found in Rome. And that was built in 113 AD. I always thought these things were so neat. If you look at spirals in nature, just go Google spirals in nature or helixes in nature, or where's another word for it? Snail form in nature, I think. And our galaxies are all built like that. A lot of animals have that structure. Flowers, tons of the flowers, the eye of the hurricane. So with spiral staircases being associated with kings and castles, it's not surprising that they became a desirable feature for the wealthy to incorporate into their homes. An excellent example of this magnificent spiral staircase at the Chateau de Chambord in the Loire Valley, which was built in the early 16th century. This takes the form of two spiral staircases intertwined to form a double helix. Many experts believe that this superb feat of design and engineering was the work of Leonardo da Vinci, who was living close by at the time of its construction. And it is called the double helix DNA staircase. All right, these are some other temples. This is a temple in England here. The great ziggurats, you know, that we see in ancient times are a type of staircase like that, like this one up here, same. This is a Mormon temple in Illinois. And this is an entire article where you can look at all of these staircases in the Mormon temples. A lot of them have these spiral staircases. This is a famous spiral staircase in the Vatican Museum in Rome that looks exactly like what we think of as a DNA strand. Designed by, I can't say that, Momo in 1932, the so-called snail staircase consists of two, listen to this, intertwined stairways that curve in a double helix. Interestingly enough, the structure of the DNA had not been discovered when Momo came up with this design. One of the staircases goes up while the other leads down. Thus, when you're on one of the stairs, you will see people going the other way, but you will never meet, just like the angels that were passing each other in Jacob's dream. And this staircase actually has also like the window to heaven in the top of it. You know, Jacob dreamed and saw a window into heaven. Also in Masonry, they have taken this and incorporated it into their levels. The reference through the middle way is through the Temple of Solomon and the pathway to the Holy of Holies, in which the Ark, the covenant resides, or the place where which deity dwells. Freemasonry strives to, through its practice, to make those good men better. This is quoted from their doctrine. In that process of making the good man a candidate for the degrees, is made an entered apprentice symbolically as he ascends Jacob's ladder. They even call it Jacob's ladder. And the well-known, probably most well-known spiral that we know of is these pictures of the Tower of Babel that we have, which is where all the Baal worship started and the total anti-Christ religions started. If you have not looked at that, I have a video called Come Out of Her. So much that we have not been taught. Hey, in the last days, we are told it will be as it was in the days of Noah. Well, how was it in the days of Noah? We are living in a time when man's DNA is being tampered with just as it was in Noah's day. And I don't know if I have a picture of, I have a video that I just did about this. I think it's Them That Dwell Upon the Earth. It's probably the same one I showed you a minute ago, where Noah's day, all of the seed, all of the DNA was completely polluted. And God just had to wipe it all out and start over again. And he did that several times. So he wasn't just this unfeeling God that was mad at everybody. He literally was trying to preserve the seed or the DNA that he had created for the lineage of Christ to come through. So now we have man messing with it. And they call it cracking the code of life. We're going back to the life is in the blood. You know, this company 23andMe, this came out 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and everybody was so wowed and awed and how cool is that? And the conspiracy theories went around, oh my gosh, don't give your DNA to them, they're keeping your DNA. Well, they are. But this company that does genetic testing, look at this, this one of the owners, I can't say her name, and Google co-founder Sergey Brin were married at the time that this company was created. So Google is involved in this. If you go down here, in 2018, 23andMe announced its partnership with GlaxoSmithKline GlaxoSmithKline to allow the pharmaceutical company to use test results from 5 million customers to design new drugs. GlaxoSmithKline had invested $300 million in this company. Yeah, don't give them your DNA. This is some of the products of GlaxoSmithKline. If you're not familiar with them, they make a ton of the jabby jabs, Pediarix, and there's that recombinant DNA that we talked about. Cervarix, which is the HPV virus that has injured hundreds of young people. Recombinant, there's that word again. There's several down here. The flu vaccines, seasonal flu, hepatitis B, rabies, human rotavirus, zoster, that's chickenpox, the combined Hep A and Hep B, Infurix. A ton of these are on your childhood schedule. They want to inject this into your children. In another flu one. So there's their logo. I mean, their logo is a DNA strand. They don't even hide. And then remember, this came out, this big conspiracy theory about, did they own the Wuhan lab? Well, you can't find that information now. So that has been, debunked by Snopes. Thank goodness. Thank goodness Snopes is there to let us all know the truth, right? Totally sarcastic. So reading DNA, they found, is like reading a book. It's a code. They ought to be reading the good book instead of trying to figure out how to read DNA, right? So this is April 2000. The leading US gene sequencing company called Celera Genomics has finished reading the genetic code of one person and is now putting the information together into a meaningful order. Celera aims to win the race to be the first to have a complete sequence of the human genome, the collection of all the genes and the other genetic material that is the basic blueprint of life. Now listen to this. If you don't get anything else, listen to this. It is competing with the publicly funded scientists of the Human Genome Project, which promises a working draft of the what? The Book of Life by June. Here's another article about Celera. On Monday, Celera Genomics and Human Genome Project, an international consortium of scientists, which were expected to release their own version of the Book of Life. Now, why'd they call it that? You may have heard of the Book of Life, but this is the real thing. An encyclopedia has been published that contains 172 pages of mouse DNA, including all 60,000 known active mouse genes. Work on a human equivalent has already begun, promising the ultimate in vanity publishing. Anyone rich enough could one day pay to have their genome committed to print. So this was before that. So this was before, and they've already done it. Our genes play a major role in making us who we are, right? Of course. This project is called the Encyclopedia of DNA Elements, or ENCODE. When the Human Genome Project sequenced the human genome in 2003, it established the order of the 3 billion letters in the genome, which can be thought of as what? The Book of Life. This is a book called Who Wrote the Book of Life? A History of the Genetic Code. And then this is an article about reading the Book of Life, a brief history of DNA sequencing. So they have taken that term that we know of as coming from Holy Scriptures about the Book of Life. And do you think they know what that means? I mean, of course they know that phrase. And I know one certain antichrist that knows exactly what that phrase means and they think that they've figured out everything. So it gives new meaning to the phrase, is your name in the Book of Life? Scientists said they had finished writing the Book of Life, the 3 billion letters of DNA that make up the human genome. The successful completion of the Human Genome Project was announced more than 2 years ahead of schedule. The publishing in the scientific journals, I'm just giving you more proof here, is the end of a long and unprecedented race to unscramble humanity's Book of Life, and supposedly the beginning of new golden age of medical miracles and biotech booms. When Obama came into office, he gave the first $130 million to go into the NIH, that's a familiar house term now, to fund the creation of a national research program tracking the data of 1 million volunteer donors, including for many their DNA sequences. The front runner company now on the Book of Life is this place right here. Look at the name of it. The name of it is Illumina, and it's stationed at 5200 Illumina Way. I mean, you can't make this up. This is funny to them. Like, Illumina said on Monday that it would buy cancer screening startup Grail Incorporated, blah, 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 money, 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 money. And one of their investors is Jeff Bezos. Imagine that. The owner of this company, or the CEO, is Francis D'Souza. He is on the board of directors of the Walt Disney Company. Go back in my videos if you want to. What was that one called? The Beast System. And the one about the 33s. Before Illumina, he was president of Symantec, and he worked at Microsoft with Mr. Gates. Lovely bunch. These are some articles from their website. Illumina said today it launched a collaboration with Merck, the biopharma unit of Merck, intended to develop a universal next-generation sequencing-based oncology diagnostic. Merck is a big vax producer. Illumina, the leading maker of DNA sequencing equipment, is partnering with Sanofi, AstraZeneca, and Johnson & Johnson. You all know what they make now, part of the four companies. Merck and Illumina said today they are partnering with Genea to improve fertility-related technologies in reproductive treatment. They're going to get all up in that. This one is Illumina has invested in Desktop Genetics, a developer of software to support CRISPR. Remember that. CRISPR is a gene editing company. We'll come back to that. It sounds like science fiction, it says, but Illumina, the $24 billion biotechnology company, has pioneered cheap, efficient sequencing of DNA. It has launched a new startup, Grail, and they're laughing here because such a test would be a holy grail for cancer doctors with $100 million in funding. Illumina will hold a majority share. Other backers include Sutter Hill Arch, Jeff Bezos, and Bill Gates. It's crazy. Illumina is like the ruler of this whole universe. I'm quoting. And no one knows that, said Ann Wojcicki, Chief Executive Officer of 23andMe, which uses Illumina's machines to analyze thousands of biological samples for customers. Illumina is not the only supplier of these DNA sequencing machines. It's a spinoff from the company called Helix. All their names are so cute. Illumina has invested in Desktop Genetics. We talked about this. CRISPR is gene editing in human embryos. And this is an article that came out against this. And it says there's some safety concerns and this ongoing debate whether scientists should edit human embryos to prevent genetic diseases, a process that it is controversial because it creates a permanent change to the genome that can be passed down for generations. But I thought that couldn't happen. But anyway, if human embryo editing for reproductive purposes or germline editing were spaceflight, the new data are the equivalent of having the rocket explode at the launch pad before takeoff. That was someone's description of it. So what was that? They included DNA rearrangements and large deletions of several thousand DNA letters, much greater than typically intended by researchers, of course. The changes are the result of DNA repair processes harnessed by genome editing tools. CRISPR uses a small strand of RNA to direct the enzyme to a site in the genome with a similar sequence. The enzyme then cuts both strands of DNA at that site, and the cell's repair system heals the gap. And it says down here, broken DNA can also cause shuffling or loss of a large region of the chromosome. I'm sorry to read you all that, but you need to hear all this. 15 tech-based companies have aimed at advancing DNA data storage by agreeing upon a roadmap of definitions and standards to help the industry, blah, blah. Illumina, Microsoft, Twist Bioscience, and data storage giant Western Digital are leading the effort as founding members of the DNA Data Storage Alliance. These 4 founding members have committed to addressing the explosive growth of digital data by archiving all this. You think they're not keeping your DNA? Oh, yes, they are. Illumina has also launched a non-exclusive partnership with Imaging, another image term, an artificial intelligence-based precision medicine company. Next. This is talking about designer babies, where they think that they are going to create designer children by editing their DNA before they're ever conceived. One more thing about this, the San Diego Blood Bank announced that it is working with Illumina on a plan to allow donors to give blood that will be used in genomics research. This was in 2015, so this has long been done. The blood bank will take up an extra tube of blood from up to 100, blah, 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 blah. So they're keeping it. Says the vice president of genomics at Illumina said a goal is to harness the nation's blood bank as sources for recruiting volunteers and obtaining samples for large-scale genomics research. And then their next feat, they say, is to code and write down the proteome, the proteins. San Mateo Helix has partnered with Illumina to sequence the genetic material from positive COVID-19 tests. So they're all mixed up in this together, okay? The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, we know, has already come up with this delivery system, this quantum dot tattoo. That's in another video. If you haven't heard the number of this patent, you can go look that up. It's not a funny number. They're going to make this spiky tattoo vax that goes into your system, and the tips actually do not go anywhere. The rest of it dissolves, I guess, but the tips, the needles that are stuck in there do not go anywhere. And they're working on that. I think I covered this in this video, verse mapping Revelation 13 and 16, more about this dot tattoo. John Hopkins University here, just that picture tells you that they know what they're doing. It's in the picture. This is a schematic of how a virus is, the gene is inserted into the virus, and the virus is mixed with the cells of the patient, and then the cells from the patient become genetically altered, and then they reproduce, blah, 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 and it's a vicious cycle. Remember this? This was the Seattle Space Needle Show, New Year's Eve 2021. And there was the Space Needle with the DNA helix. So the needle was going into the DNA strand. And this one just looks like some kind of monster from the deep or something. Messenger RNA is another type of thing. And you're going to hear these terms: transfection, transcription, transduction. They're all basically the same. The ability to modify the host cell's genetic content. That is what they're doing. Here's a picture of it. You need it. Purefection is another company that delivers nano-based gene delivery. So they work with all these other companies. This is their little schematic of how their thing works. Here's your RNA with your purefection transfection reagent. Put it in a vortex and incubate it for 15 minutes and into the cells. This is a lot of information. I just go back to the verse, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. We're getting destroyed. Here is another schematic of how that works. I just wanted to point out one more thing on there. They show here that they have tested this. They've tested it on HEC-293, which is aborted fetal tissue. So they cannot say that they haven't already done that. And this is older. This is CRISPR, the one we were talking about earlier, the gene editing software. Shows you exactly how they put the RNA in here, cut the double strands of the helix. The programmed DNA may be inserted at the cut. There you go. This is from Moderna's website. DNA is your storage, mRNA is the software, the protein is the application. So they are using what's already there. They call it the software of life. Utilizing these instruction sets gives our investigational mRNA medicines a software-like quality. Reprogramming. And I didn't do a ton on this, but we have heard, we know that these things are, one guy called them cookies in his video, we'll call them cookies. The cookies are messing with your blood. That's why there's so many blood disorders and heart attacks and blood clots happening now. So you know, you don't have to be told that it is altering your blood in some way. This is a picture that some scientists did that got a hold of some blood before and after they had taken this stuff. These are just some slides and we're almost done here. I just pulled these from this Purefection's website just to show you. Gene and cell therapy holds promising treatment. Transfection with Fugene allows the engineering of these cells by providing the missing genetic material, removing unwanted genetic material, or by an increase or decrease in the genetic expression. They're messing with your genes. Epigenetics is a change in an organism caused by the modification of gene expression rather than the genome itself. So this is transfection of nucleic acids into cells with Fugene can be used to induce various epigenetic modifications for change in protein expression. That is exactly what the little C things are. Stem cells can divide and differentiate to become specialized cells. This said high transfection efficiencies obtained by delivering nucleic acids with Fugene are essential to stem cell reprogramming and differentiating. So what I'm saying here is they are claiming all the time, we're not doing that, except on their websites, they're all bragging about, we know how to do this. So we have to connect the dots. Regulating and measuring gene expression. Fugene facilitates the study of gene expression by delivering nucleic acids to inhibit or enhance protein expression in various tissues and organs. Of course, they are marketing this, that this is an amazing thing that they are doing. Therapeutic proteins are produced by transfecting cells with Fugene plus the desired nucleic acid, which instructs the cells to manufacture the intended novel proteins. That's exactly how the COVID vaccines are made. Genome editing is a popular technique utilized in research and therapeutic applications to make permanent changes to a cell's DNA. The development of CRISPR revolutionized the ease and accessibility of this technology. Fugene facilitates the delivery of CRISPR encoding DNA to allow efficient, safe, and easy gene editing. It's easy. It's easy. So we've got to think of it like this. Our bodies have these proteins and they're like little 3D printers. And when they are given this software code or instruction sheets, these printers will print off these little robots which travel around our bodies and eliminate the virus. That's what the scientists have set out to achieve with mRNA vaccines. That's exactly what and there's some other articles listed here that you might want to look up. I can't. I'll try to put the links below. I don't know if I can. Another diagram of how messenger RNA, they unzip the DNA and stick the RNA in there. So the Book of Life that we talked about, they named the DNA sequences the Book of Life. Do you think this is a coincidence? Don't tell me they've never heard that phrase. And you can guarantee there's one big being who knows that phrase and thought it would be a copycat prophetic thing to use it to describe this DNA code. Our medical system now seems to be taken over by the beast, which is a very scary thought. The people that we thought were there to protect us and take care of us. This is one of the symbols in the medical community. Sometimes you see the rod of Asclepius, which has one snake fashioned after the story of Moses and the snakes in the Bible. But this one is Caduceus, and this is from the god of Hermes. You will see this on all kinds of medical, especially Army Medical Corps things. The caduceus, as it turns out, was a staff carried by the Greek god Hermes. Hermes is best well known as the messenger of the gods, but he is also well known as the protector of liars, gamblers, and thieves. He's also prominently known as the guide of the dead. The name of the staff, caduceus, is adapted from the Greek word kerykeuon, which means herald's wand, the staff of the public messenger. So when you look at that, this is Miss Pelosi. We all know her, and she wears one of those on her lapel a lot of times, her little caduceus staff. And this is the Baphomet statue, if you've never seen that, which is Baal, same thing as Baal. And in the center of his abdomen is that caduceus. That is now on our medical symbols. There he is again. They have set that statue up in prominent areas and all around the countries and displayed it for people to look upon. So again, that question, can we trust our medical system? In other videos, I talk about that word that is translated as sorceries in Revelation. All nations were deceived by her sorceries. That word is pharmakia, which is where we get the word pharmacy. It means a deception. And we have a beast system that is oppressing the world. And the question is, are they causing all to make an image to the beast? Is that what's happening? These other two videos will take you more in depth into that, and they may be obsolete. This video may be obsolete in a week or two. Prophecy is unrolling so fast that you can hardly keep up with it. It's amazing. So we come down to the end. We've got the image of God versus the image of the beast. We're told that there will be this image of the beast in the end that will try to usurp God's throne as a copycat. I showed you this one before. Christ and God's DNA versus the Antichrist and an altered DNA. The ultimate idolatry was to make an image. You shall not make any graven image or any likeness. There's those words again, an image and a likeness. God said, I made man in my image and my likeness. Don't you make any images or any likenesses. That's idolatry. That's exactly what is happening. And when you think about the third temple, I always thought that there was going to be a third temple built in Jerusalem, and maybe there will be a physical one. But where is the third temple? It's in here, right? The third temple, the temple is within you, where the Holy Spirit resides. I just thought this was interesting. Genesis 46 lists all of the descendants of Jacob that came into Egypt with him, all of those descendants that he dreamed about. The first temple in the wilderness, the tabernacle in the wilderness, had 46 boards. There were 20 on each side and 6 on the back wall, 46 boards. The second temple took 46 years to build. Remember, Jesus told them that they didn't even know that he was talking about his body. They said, this temple took 46 years to build, and you say it's going to be rebuilt in 3 days, and they didn't even know he was talking about his body, this temple. So where is the third temple? It's in your body. And just amazingly enough, your body is made of 46 chromosomes. That's what tells your body how to look like it looks. So we know in the end, Satan comes, says the abomination of desolation, that he comes and sits in the holy place, declaring himself to be God. So if he's coming and sitting in that temple, to think about how would he do that? The word temple just means where the image of God was placed. A temple, a shrine, the divine dwelling place of God. And we're just a summary here. God created man in his image and likeness. Satan, the forever copycat, wants to create an image for himself or to himself. The imprint of the God gene is in every cell, and the life is in the blood. Will Satan create an image? By altering your DNA. God created every living thing with a seed to produce after its own kind. The beast system has already altered the DNA of our food, and some of them they won't reproduce. You know, they tell you if you get a genetically modified fruit from the store and plant the seed, it won't grow anything. I grow a tree, but it won't grow any fruit. So if they've already done that, they're not too far off, and probably already there, from succeeding in altering the human genome so that it will not reproduce. So whose image will that be in? Just some scriptures that I put here at the end that just hit me completely differently after studying this. Do you know that you yourselves are God's temple and the Spirit of God dwells in you? If anyone defiles the temple of God, God will destroy him. For the temple of God is holy, which temple you are. Defile here means to destroy, corrupt, spoil, waste away. Listen to this, moving down from a higher level or quality to a lower quality. Don't let anybody tamper with your temple. Sorry. So Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I tell you, unless you eat the flesh and drink the blood of the Son of Man, you have no life in you. Not literally, of course, drink his blood. It means to receive his nature and his attributes. I wonder what happens supernaturally when you take communion at Passover and do the bread and the wine. That'd be a whole interesting, different study. In Psalms, we're told, your eyes saw my substance being yet unformed, and in your book they all were written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them. Substance means an embryo there, from galah, meaning to wrap up and fold together, like a folded DNA strand, maybe. So your eyes saw my substance, and in your book they were written. So at that time, this is in Daniel, Michael, the archangel who stands guard over your nation, will arise, and then there will be a time of anguish greater than any since nations first came into existence. But at that time, every one of your people whose name is written in the book will be rescued. What book? The book of life? Will you be rescued if your book of life is intact and unaltered? Question that needs to be asked. And all the people who belong to this world, this is from Revelation, worship the beast. They are the ones whose names were not written in the book of life that belongs to the Lamb, who was slaughtered before the world was made. And if any was not found written in the book of life, he was cast into the lake of fire. I mean, this would make sense. If God's DNA is what separates you from the Antichrist, then that would make sense that your name or you needed to be still in the book of life. Revelation 21:27, and there shall in no wise enter into it anything unclean, or he that maketh an abomination and a lie, but only that are written in the Lamb's book of life. The abomination of desolation comes into play here too. It says that makes the abomination that makes desolate or barren. So anything unclean that maketh an abomination and a lie, they're not going to be written in the book of life. And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy, God shall take away his part out of the book of life and out of the holy city and from these things that are written in this book. God's going to take your part out of the book of life. So thank you for watching. I took a big deep breath there. I know that was a lot. I hope you will go back and watch it again and study more, because I could have put 100 more slides in this video of proof of what's happening, and the verses that now mean something completely different when you look at the life, the book of life, and the life is in the blood, and Jesus, Yeshua, shedding his blood for you. All of these things take on a new revealed meaning, and rightly so, as we are living out the book of Revelation. All right, I hope you will have a blessed day, and thank you for watching.